board meeting yesterday, but it was the same kind of comedy of errors where there are board members on the phone and it's, can you hear me? Can you back and forth?
Better?
Up, can you?
No.
Okay, I'm just going to keep talking until somebody says they're working on it. So why don't you write a sign and put it up that says they're working on it?
Okay.
So we'll just waste a little bit of time.
I'll email you.
But I don't think it's their problem. I think the problem is on our end.
Yes.
Oh, Dan's on the computer, I'll just email him.
Is it, can you hear us now? Coeur d'Alene, can you hear us?
They might not be able to hear you because you're facing away from the microphone, which is behind you.
We cannot hear in Boise. I think we can still hear Coeur d'Alene.
Can you hear me
We can
now?
still hear you in Coeur d'Alene, John. We cannot hear anything in Boise. It went in and out there.
I'm out of here.
Get it up there.
It's the technology.
Can you hear me?
We can hear the team in Boise.
Well. Okay, so that sounds like.
Can we turn it down? Remember that
Is it too late for me to change my one word?
Take the pause, the refreshments.
Hey, Dan.
Singing challenge.
Right. It's like go show off that. Yeah, but he can show it off in the soccer field. My daughter, she's doing track and soccer right now. And a million and one other things. And I just told her, I said, listen, that's the only one. If you want to that's okay, but don't.
Just your vision. I think that's what you're finding out. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in terms of, you know what I mean, recent graduates, we've got two people.
Hello?
No.
Folks up in 304 in the conference room, if you can hear me, you need to shut everything
Because
down
I
and
told
come
them, I said, look,
downstairs.
no offense, but soccer is high school. And she's running here. I gotta pull her out of here. She's gotta do the high school stuff. I can't be running. I know she can. And I said, and if she's, that's not okay, then she can't do that. Oh, no, we'll make it. But that's middle school. Yeah, high school.
Okay, we're going to try it again. So, Boise, can you hear us now?
He's got a thumb up.
Is that right? We got a thumb up?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Coeur d'Alene, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so the problem was in trying to make sure there was plenty of access. We had room 304 upstairs going at the same time we had down here, and they had the phone on so that, I don't know why. So there was an audio loop going on between the phone upstairs and down here. It was causing problems. So the folks from upstairs are coming down and get a front row seat. And as soon as they get here, we'll go ahead and start. Why don't we check and see who is present in Boise? Just go around real quickly and let us know who's there because we can't see you.
Hey, Canuto?
John Cannon.
Brian Austin.
Michael Crow.
Great, thanks for being there. And is Brian Mon, are you around from Idaho Falls, Rexburg area?
Pretty dark.
No, okay, so it also, I believe, is spring break on their end. So the fact that they're there is pretty remarkable. So thank you for being there, folks in Boise. I think some of you are there when you might be on spring break instead. Are folks coming downstairs?
Some are coming, yes, but they'll be coming soon.
Okay. And how about in Coeur d'Alene?
We can see us.
Kathy Canfield Davis. Is everything on? Okay, Deb Long.
Julie Andor,
Don Wadham.
Ann Kern,
Susan Stunsner.
Great, so thanks for being there. We've got sounds like almost a full house there in Coeur d'Alene, so thank you for being there. And then rather than, I don't know if the camera can pan, but we've got a pretty full house here as well. So we're gonna move forward and see if we can't move on with the faculty meeting then. Well, I'm afraid to move out. I don't like being back here. I feel separated, but I'm afraid that you're not going to be able to hear off campuses if I move away from here. So I'm just going to plant myself here and it'll be okay. So what we're going to do today, I've got a couple of updates. A couple of them are actually quite major updates, so we'll get to those under the college updates. But the first thing that I wanted to do is just recognize that it has been, I think, a long and hard haul this year as we get ready for NCATE and as there have been more hires and searches going on in the college than I have experienced here. So there have been, people's time has been really stretched for both of those reasons in different areas, I know. So a huge thanks to everybody who has put in tons and tons of work on various projects and in various different ways. We really have a lot to congratulate people for this year, so I'm just going to go through a couple of them quickly. There is Ann Kern and her achievement of tenure and promotion. Matt Wofford received promotion this year. Chantal Vella received tenure and promotion. Susan Sun did the same, tenure and promotion. Dave Paul, congratulations. So for those folks, congratulations. This next award is Grace Gottskarp. It is not on a very regular basis that somebody in College of Education wins a really major university award. So I am just really very, very pleased that, oops, it's on a timer. So we're gonna just go really fast because I'm not gonna, so congratulations, Grace. And for the first year, we have a recipient, we're just gonna have to go too fast, of the Presidential Mid-Career Award, Alan Kitchell. Huge congratulations. Brant Miller is going to have the cover photograph on Nature magazine. He went on an expedition with folks from science and water research, and his photograph is on the cover. It's a big deal.
Yes.
So I don't see him here right now, but that's, so watch on April 4th is when that's coming out. Chantal, I understand, is going to be featured in, and David Paul, the two of them will be featured. So sorry, Dave, I didn't get your picture on here, so I missed that. I'm sorry. Will be featured in Jack MacGyver's research magazine. So going quickly, Margaret, we can almost get caught up here. It received a seed grant for 2013-14. Congratulations to you. That's a big deal. Very, very competitive. There were a lot of applicants this year, so it was very, very competitive. There we go. We had 3 people in the college who received mentor awards earlier this spring: Helen Brown, Grace, and Matt Wofford. So congratulations for that. It's a really great honor from students to receive this award. Oops, and then we're gonna stop right there because that's where I'll take us in a little bit. So I just wanted to really congratulate. I'm guessing that I've missed a few people. Is there anybody you can think of who's really received a big honor this year that I missed on that list? Okay, hearing none, I'm sure there's one and it's gonna drive me nuts and I'll feel bad about it later, but we're gonna move on. So, congratulations to those folks, but really congratulations to everybody for getting to this point. We are almost to the point where we can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. I've asked each of the department chairs to just give a brief update on the departments. If you're staying on your seat, you need to make sure that the microphone near you is unmuted, or that you're sitting at the tables have microphones, so you have to sit where there is a table microphone. So we're going to start with Tony Pickering from Movement Sciences.
Okay, thanks. First announcement I'm going to make or update is actually, can you hear me in the offsite? Okay, great. First announcement, we'll start with the not so exciting news. I'm really sorry to report that Dr. Susan McKenzie will be actually leaving our department at the end of the year. She is moving on to other pastures, and we'll be having some great opportunities for her and her family in California, but it's going to be a big loss for us. She's a fantastic teacher, a great researcher, a great colleague, and a participant in the department, so we're really going to miss Susan. We'll move on to more positive announcements for our department now. We have our first graduating cohort in our DAT program that is coming up here in the early summer. So
and the first graduating ever in the country.
Right.
So this is not just our first, it is the first ever. So that's really exciting news.
Very exciting. And along those notes, we also are starting our third cohort, which will be the largest cohort that we've enrolled in that program. So that's fantastic news. We will also be starting our first cohort of our Masters in Athletic Training program this summer as well. We currently have 4 active searches going on. We have a search going on for an interim position within our dance program. We have a search occurring to fulfill a clinical position within our exercise science and health program. And we are adding 2 faculty members to our athletic training program. One will be directing the MSAT program, and one will be a clinical coordinator shared across the 2 AT programs. We've admitted a very strong cohort of new PhD students that will be joining us in the fall. And I know several of our faculty are real excited to be working with the new students that are coming on. We've just completed the main stage performance of Dancers, Drummers, Dreamers, and that will actually be going on tour in early to mid-May to 3 or 4 cities. I went and watched it, and it was fabulous as usual, so I'm very proud of that. And again, reinforcing the success of our tenure and promotion with our faculty members and with Grace's awards. I just want to reinforce that. And then finally, well, a lot of people view movement sciences around campuses through our BIP program, and I just wanted to let folks know that we have some very new exciting courses going on in BIP, including kite flying, geocaching, orienteering, Ironman training, whitewater kayaking. We're going to increase our swimming and water safety courses, increase our archery courses, and we have a new karate course that is taking place. So we're trying to make an even bigger footprint and impression across the university from our activity courses.
And the other good news there is we think we will be getting permission to actually charge a fee that covers the full cost, so that the department isn't subsidizing the courses. So hopefully we're really close to doing that and getting a little bit more stability within financial for the department, which will be a big deal. The other thing I wanted to mention about Dancers, Drummers, and Dreamers, for those of you who have never seen it, it's hard to get excited about something that you don't know, but I have to tell you, it is the most upbeat, fun, energetic performance. And it is and if you have small children, I would also encourage you to take, it's movement, it's rhythm, it's funny, it's big, it's loud. You don't have to worry about a child who starts talking in the middle, because you'll never hear them. It is just really, really fun. So I'd encourage you, it's always in the spring. It is just a really upbeat, fun performance that is a joint performance between the dance program and our really well-known music department, and especially percussion. So it's all about percussion and sound. So it was very fun. Nice job. Okay, let's go to Dr. Gathercole and curriculum and instruction.
Thanks. Our department has been active. We went away for a department retreat and helped to prepare for the NCATE PSC Professional Standards Commission accreditation visit that's coming up. And we had a exhaustive competition amongst our faculty to respond to questions that might be asked. And the winners were awarded with Apple iPads. You can see Dan Campbell about that if you're interested. And we also had an opportunity to articulate our curriculum along with the provost's demand that we come up with goals and have our syllabi well articulated. So we've started a website that we will have syllabus templates for all the courses that we teach, and that should be up and ready to go by April the 7th. That came out of our retreat as well. So we're making good progress towards curriculum articulation and syllabi. We have run 10 searches so far, 5 of which have been finalized. One is Shauna Williams will be joining us in business and marketing this fall. She's now teaching for us part-time, but will come on full-time. We'll need a office for her in Boise, John, so if you could start arranging that, that'd be great. Special education. We have tried to hire a special educator for, I think, 3 years, and we finally were successful. And Dr. Alex Hollingshead will be joining us in the fall. She'll be coming out in May to search for a house and will join us in some of our program meetings. And so you may get an opportunity to meet her again or for the first time in May. We hired a person in literacy/English as a new language for our Moscow site, and Dr. Janine Dara will be joining us in the fall, and she will take on that role. She's coming to us from Whitworth and has her doctorate from WSU, so she has been traveling, well, has been here in the Pacific Northwest for a while now. Let's see. We have hired a professor of learning technologies, and this is with the, were you going to report on this? No, I'll do it. Albertson grant. Dr. Royce Kimmons will be coming in as our professor and lead on that particular grant. And we also hired a technology integration specialist, clinical assistant professor, and lab manager for the Albertsons grant, and that will be Ms. Cassidy Hall will be joining us. So I believe that was 5 names that I gave you out of 10. The other 5 are either closed, failed, or undecided, and so we will report as that is available. Also want to congratulate Dr. Georgia Johnson, who is retiring, as you know, and she will be awarded, when she does retire, Professor Emerita. So when you see her, give her a big congratulations. All right, I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you. And Kathy Canfield Davis for leadership and counseling.
I've got just a couple of things. We're pleased to announce the hire of Dr. Jean Henscheidt, who will be working in our Adult Organizational Learning and Leadership program. Her home campus is in Boise. Jean is actually a former University of Idaho employer. She comes to us most recently, she comes to us most recently from Portland State University. So we're happy she's back in Idaho and happy she's at the university. We, this spring in January, started a new educational leadership cohort with the Boise School District. So we are starting to build that program. This has been a first for us. We have a program in Meridian that we're really happy to have a partnership. We're starting a partnership with the Boise School District. Like curriculum and instruction, leadership and counseling had a retreat, and the primary purpose of that was to begin to build the future. We have a transition that will be coming if all things work the way we want them to, and I'm going to let the dean talk about that. That's a little bit later on the agenda. The department chair. We too have been getting ready for NCATE, and we'll be glad when the visit is over, and we look forward to the report, excuse me, that we'll get in October. And thanks to the inspiration of Tony Pickering, we have agreed that leadership and counseling will purchase jackets with the leadership and counseling department logo on them. So just want to thank Dr. Pickering for that inspiration.
Quick call out to Kathy. Kathy has done an incredible job stepping in as the interim department chair for leadership and counseling. She has put her head down and worked as hard as anybody possibly could. She has traveled to Boise more times than anybody would have thought possible. She has worked with Ed Leadership to make sure that they are as prepared as possible for the NK review. So Kathy, just a huge, huge thank you to you and recognition for the work that you've done this year.
I have a lot of great support, so can't do that alone. Thank you.
Thank you. I also wanted to go back to awards for a second. I remembered somebody I forgot. I wanted to just acknowledge that Mary Gardner was nominated for the University Teaching Award, and it is a lot of effort to nominate. It's a lot of effort to put forth a nomination, and her packet was absolutely beautiful. It wasn't successful this year, but it should have been. So in my eyes, we have a university awardee for teaching, and maybe it will be successful yet another year. But thanks to those who worked on her nomination packet and to Mary in terms of both being nominated, which is an honor, and then all the work that was done on your behalf. It was a great honor, I think, to Mary, and I just want to congratulate her for that nomination. Okay, we're going to move on to some of the college business here. I would guess that many of you are aware of enrollments, but I don't know that anybody wakes up worrying about enrollments and goes to sleep worrying about enrollments like I have done this last year. There is only one program in the college that has maintained or increased enrollment, and that is exercise and sports science. So first of all, we really need to recognize that we have an undergraduate program that specifically is growing. Recreation has grown, but it had slid back, so it's kind of getting back. So recreation is making some good progress. The other programs in the college, almost all of them, have decreased in enrollment in an era where we are supposed to be growing in enrollment. So I've been watching this carefully. What I'm going to show you is what's happened to some of our revenue, and it's off-campus revenue, but I don't want anybody to have the thought that this is an off-campus problem, because every single department has funds that are coming to you from off-campus revenue, and all of the off-campus programs also have base budgeted funds going to them. So we have a very commingled model, and it is that the off-campus revenue has done a great deal to support much of what the college has been doing over the years. So it is not a problem of off-campus, it's a problem that we need to look at and own and really start putting some attention to in terms of where we are with enrollment. It is not that we can continue to go down in enrollment on campus and off, and we have gone down on campus as well. We can't continue that trajectory and assume that there won't be financial repercussions for that. So I want to show you kind of an illustration of what's happening, and then give you kind of the brighter picture in terms of where we are for the next couple of years at least. So this slide, yes, Damon?
Exercise science and health.
Did I use the wrong? Exercise science and health. What did I call it?
Sports and science.
Or exercise and sports science.
I got it wrong. Exercise science and health is increasing in enrollments and has been steadily increasing. Actually, this last year, the data that I looked at looked like it went down slightly, but it was like by 5 or 6 after years of steady growth. So I'm not quite, I haven't seen the end numbers, so I'm not quite sure it grew last year. It might have just stayed kind of stable last year. So this slide, I'm going to...
Judging by our classes, I think we grew again.
Well, it could be from last year's growth and the year before's, but you've got big classes. Okay, so let's see if I can get this up. Show slide. I don't want it to go, oh, I know, if I just go down here. Twyla, help. How do I get it to show big?
Just right click.
I right click.
Exercise science and health measures, so pre-med,
I don't know, actually somebody who uses this all the time, help her
Steve,
design.
hit F5 and then hit the letter S and it won't advance. That'll cut out your timings.
F5.
But she just needs to show
I
the
just
very
want to
last
show the
slide.
slide that I have right here. Do I have to go back to the slideshow?
Top should say show current.
Oh. Thank you, John.
On the bottom
Oh,
side.
got it?
On the
No.
Interesting.
I just want that up.
No job. People can't get jobs. The program is growing. The program is growing.
Thank you. I am the technology dean, after all. We all know. Okay, so the blue numbers are revenue that are coming in from so off-campus is the only place we bring in revenue. We are base budgeted for everything that we do on campus. So the money that we have to bring everybody to campus, for example, for our fall meetings or for travel or for extra things that you're asking the deans to support, are oftentimes coming from off-campus budgets. When I arrived in 2010, we were going on a trajectory of increase. After years of not doing anything, we hit 1.9 million in revenue at a time when our expenses were about just under 1.5 million. I was strongly encouraged by the provost to use that differential in any way possible to strengthen the college. We created an Office of Student Services. We hired an accreditation and assessment person without whom we would not be passing, even thinking we were going to pass NCATE. We committed funds to an advisor for movement sciences. So there are a number of things in here that that happened with some of this differential. So fiscal year 12, last year, we had quite a bit of revenue carryover because we hadn't spent that year. So we were building a pool of reserves with which we are then saying, okay, we can remodel classrooms. So we remodeled the classroom in PEB. We remodeled a classroom in the education building. We've moved on to 4-year cycling of computers so that everybody gets new computers every 4 years. We've purchased new technology for classes that we're doing, and revenue is decreasing. So for fiscal year 12, last year, we brought in 1.75. We still were making budget, and we still were increasing our reserves. So I felt pretty good about where we were, not taking into account that this has been the hardest period of time I have ever seen for classroom teachers and for principals and superintendents. Young people wanting to come into education are told by their parents, are told by their teachers, don't go into teaching. That message is getting through. I think we're seeing it in terms of young people coming into teaching right now. We're also seeing it in terms of people deciding to go into administration because it's a tough climate right now to be a principal. And we're just in this vortex. It's not fault. I'm not blaming any of us. I'm talking about the context to the provost and the president all the time. There was a new report out from MetLife does an annual survey of teachers and administrators. Nationally, there has never been a lower point for people saying they are dissatisfied with their jobs. It is at an all-time low across the country. And I would argue we are lower than the average in Idaho. The morale in the schools is really pretty troubling right now. Has a lot to do with the state context, the Luna laws, what's happening in terms of negotiation rights, those kinds of things. So we're just in a position right now where the career of teaching doesn't have a lot of shine on it for new 18, 19-year-olds who are looking at what they're going to be doing. I think that will turn around. But what happened then this year is we got to 1.49 that we brought in, and all of our expenses that we're putting out there have caught up with us and are at 1.9. We're fine because we have reserves and we have salary savings, so we're fine this year. But in this period of time, we've lost 24% of our revenue from our off-campus programs, and the provost and the vice president, well, he's not a vice president, Keith Ickes, came up with a proposal that they were going to base fund our off-campus programs, and they were going to base fund us at 1.49 and have a 17% tax on that, which would have been a really serious problem. So I've spent the last 3 months probably thinking through what this would do, how we would deal with this, and what kind of efforts I would make to see that that did not happen. So it's been a rather sleepless couple of months, but we now have a 3-year window. So nobody is going to do anything to our budgets. They're not going to base budget. We get what we bring in, just like we have been doing. And they will base, the proposal is that we will get base budgeted at 1.8, and we need to get there in order for that to happen, and we have 3 years to make that happen. So we've got some work to do in terms of thinking about how we increase our enrollments. It's, again, for those of you who are off campus, it is not just off campus. We have recruitment efforts underway. We have good plans, recruitment plans. We just need to make sure that we're enacting them and we're recruiting for them. It is from career technical education, our numbers are down, but we're starting up a new 2+2 in Idaho Falls with some hope that there might be enrollment increases there. I think there are things that we can do to increase, hopefully, our teacher preparation program in Coeur d'Alene, but we also have to really, really focus on on-campus enrollments. So as the years progress, anything that you can do with efforts around recruitment and retention, whether it's the Masters in Special Education, the Masters in CNI, the Masters in PE, the undergraduate program in PE, we need to grow almost everything. Things have slipped to the point where we can't sustain that, and we need to start going the other direction. So I'm just asking for your support when we say we've got a recruitment event, there's a Vandal Friday, we need somebody to be working with new students who are considering coming. It's really important work for all of us, off campus and on campus. I'm convinced that we could do this, or I wouldn't have put forward the proposal that I did. I would have put forward a proposal that I thought where we would be successful, and that's what I did. So the proposal again is that we've got 3 years to turn around the enrollment and get back to where we have revenue coming in at about 1.8. And once we hit that, then beyond that, we'll start talking about base budgeting and a revenue sharing model with the university. Questions, Helen?
The question I have is, so to reach this 1.8, does the on-campus enrollment impact that dollar amount, or is that just off-campus?
Well, it is the off-campus, but it isn't just an off-campus program.
Right.
So, for example, if recreation, which is an on-campus program and not fully, but almost all on-campus dollars. Some of recreation is on off-campus dollars. If they follow through with the idea of a recreation program off-campus, that will be great news. So I'm not saying it is just doing what we have been doing. I think that there is just really strong need for all of us to think about what can we do in ways where we can increase enrollments And it may be in a program that currently isn't off campus, but that we could start off campus like has been discussed with recreation and a master's degree in Coeur d'Alene. That would be a possibility. Or having in a with maybe one of the community colleges, having 1 or 2 classes taught by somebody, for example, in exercise and sports, exercise, science, and health. If we taught a 200 level class that is a U of I class that could be used for transfer, and we got 30 students in 2 different classes, that would be great off-campus enrollment. It would support movement sciences. It would support our numbers from off-campus. So the solutions don't reside just off-campus. The solutions are for all of us to think about. David?
How do PD credits, PD professional development courses play into this?
They don't play into the numbers, but they do play into our budgets. So we get revenue from professional development credits, and that helps budgets. But I do not believe they're playing into this. Other questions? Yes, Grace.
So, you know, you have current faculty and the numbers that we have, and everybody's stretched for courses, and so I think we need to plan at the same time of how do we get to deliver those kind of courses when everybody else is already loaded.
Yeah, so some of it would be, for example, if we started offering an exercise science and health, see that just rolled off that time, didn't it? An exercise science and health course at College of Western Idaho. We would find one of your graduates who lives in Boise and pay them adjunct to teach a class that had 30 or 35 students in it. It would not cost us very much, and have it be in a lower division 100, 200 level course that might in turn encourage people to transfer here. I agree that we can't teach more than we're teaching. Some of the classes have gotten quite small, so if there are classes with small numbers, we do have capacity in some of our classes. Exercise science and health doesn't have a lot of capacity. We need to be splitting those classes and getting some faculty relief to that program. But there are programs in movement sciences that have some small classes. So how is it that we get all of our classes up to the point where we're saying, okay, this one's full, we're full here. That's what I want us to do. If we just all had full classes, we'd be in good shape. So I'm not looking for growth in those places that can't grow much more unless they get relief and new faculty, but rather the places where we have capacity. And if we can't increase there, then do we do something a little bit different? So I agree with Grace that it's not that we can work harder. I think we're going to have to work smarter. John?
Would dual enrollment assist?
Dual enrollment helps.
So for example, I was just thinking if we had some sort of online component of 201, for example, to counteract, to get students interested in school, they can complete a course before they come, so seniors out in high schools.
Yeah, Paul, can you talk about the Intro to Education course that we're going to be getting online?
Yes, we're doing exactly that.
So it's that's as much as information as you're going to get, but it's 201, right? So,
yes, it is.
And it already is it's out in some schools now.
Yes.
So we have it face-to-face dual credit, and Paul is going to be putting it online as an online course, and we will work with IDLA, and it will go into the IDLA state catalog. They don't have that course at all, and we believe that will really be a course of interest for folks. And then my thinking is we have a second half to that course that is an internship where students are out in elementary schools doing some work within their community in an elementary school as a supervised internship, and would work with teachers. And I think there's some real possibilities there to really light some fires around teaching and kind of ignore some of the political airwaves. So great idea, John. Other questions, comments? I am not panicked now. If you'd have talked to me and if I'd have really said where I was a month ago, I was having stomach aches on a regular basis trying to think this through. So I feel really, really good that the proposals that I presented as an alternate proposal, everybody agreed with, bought off on, and I think we're in good shape to get to where we need to be. So I think this is not bad news. I could have been coming with some bad news, and I'm not. We just need to be fiscally conservative. We need to lessen the amount we've got reserved. So if we don't quite make our budget next year, we'll pull from those reserves. We will, and there are a couple of things that we will not be doing, but there are multiple forces for that. And so I am not worried. We're going to be fine, and we will get there. We'll just have to be strategic about it. And if you see some belt tightening in some areas, that's the reason why, is we're trying to make sure that our expenses get more in line with the revenue that's coming in, and we keep those reserves for rainy day purposes or things where we're saying, everybody's saying this is a real priority. Okay. Questions off campus? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move to facilities. This is also something that has kept me up at nights. When I arrived, so that's almost 3 years ago now, I was amazed that we were still in the building. The building leaks. You don't have to look up on any place that has an exterior wall and not know that each floor is leaking. Every wall, every ceiling tile, and every floor tile is asbestos, and that's not good news. So last year we had major studies done in terms of where is the asbestos. Asbestos does not have a shelf life of forever. Asbestos deteriorates and it gets to the point where it becomes friable and it's a health problem. So I've learned new language as I've learned about the building. So as I started learning more about the building, I started talking a lot more about the building. So it's rare to be around me, whether it's a legislator or whether it's a donor or whether it's the president, without reminding everybody that we are in a building that is deteriorating, and the language is it becomes a health and life safety building. And it's a problem. As soon as we know it's a problem, it's our responsibility. You got to get us out of here. So there have been plans. When we were having far more revenue than we had expenses, they thought that we might even be able to pay for the building ourselves. So I've dissuaded everybody of that as our responsibility in order to have a safe workspace. The reports that have been done, the monitoring in this building is fabulous. There is ongoing monitoring to make sure that the air safety is absolutely fine. We are a long way from it not being fine. But the issue is that nobody can predict, and the reports say 5 to 15 years. So within 5 to 15 years, it will become a problem, and other experts I've talked to say you can't identify it to the year. So the issue is we got to get out of the building. We need a new building. So there was $1.1 million last year that the legislature allocated to take down all of the exterior, because any place where those ugly white rocks are, gravity is pulling that down, which means that it's pulling away from the windows, which is why there's ivy growing in the windows. It is why people have wasps in their offices. It is why the first floor has stink bugs in every window well, about 30 a day, because I sweep them up with my vacuum cleaner. It's disgusting. This is a creepy building. It is creepy. I have had bugs pop out of my printer when I printed something, and they get smeared all over whatever it is that I'm printing. I don't know if you were around 2 weeks ago for that crazy rainstorm that we had. So remember that we have just spent $80,000 on the renovation upstairs in 419, painted new furniture, new technology, asbestos abatement, so that we had one classroom for students that was technology appropriate. During that rainstorm, the first thing that happened, the wind was coming from the west, and it was pushing the rain into every single window that was one of those tiny windows. So we had a rainstorm on the inside because it was coming in every place the window met the wall. There's no attachment there. So there was rain coming in, puddling on the floors. We just painted. Remember that we just painted and put up corkboard. The corkboards are all now warped. So that was the first thing. The connector between the kiva and the building on the second floor was fixed last year because it was leaking. The fix dropped out and there was a flood on the second floor. And then somebody came up and said, I think we have a problem in 419. The roof failed. The 4th floor is the top floor. The roof failed, and it all came into our newly renovated 419. So there was an emergency there and all sorts of stuff we had to do there. So the building's got to go. The legislature just allotted $3.9 million for maintenance for the university. The university has decided that they will request from the legislature, and that is in 2 weeks, they will request that that entire amount come over to this building to take it down to its guts. So that means that that will cover all of the asbestos removal. So they will take it down to the brick and to the beams. And then we will go out and we'll be bonding for the replacement of the building. That money, so this is just brand new, so within the last few days I've heard this. It has to be approved by the legislature, so it's not final. But if that happens, this money is fiscal year 14 money, which means that this building would have to be taken down to its guts next academic year, which means that this is moved up. I had predicted that this would be 3 to 5 years from now, and what it could be is it really could be that we'll start coming up with plans to leave the building sometime summer to December, and that they'll be taking the asbestos abatement, taking everything down, will occur next spring, with that next year being the year when it's built back up again. So it's big news, it's exciting news, it's need to happen news, and it's also really frightening news, because it's a lot of details to figure out. Where is all of C&I gonna go? Where is Trio gonna go? Where is IT gonna, I mean, there are all sorts of things that will have to be figured out. My sense is that it's gonna inconvenience almost all of us here in Moscow. It will delay some things possibly that we had hoped were going to happen next year for some folks. But if we can have a little bit of patience, we will then have spaces that look very different, that feel very different. People who have offices in this building will have windows, because we will be replacing with many, many windows, those rocky spaces. So it will become a very different building, and Christina and I will become road warriors and be out looking to raise money to make it not just be an okay building for us, but a building that is really, really exciting. So that's kind of the update. It's not a guarantee, but it could be that we'll start moving forward with some alternate plans to what we did think was going to be happening, and move forward in that way. So, questions around facilities?
Where's everybody going? Are we just pitching some tents out?
Well, I thought tents. I thought 3 people could go into each of the movement sciences offices, so we could.
Not Damon's office.
Yeah, probably not mine.
Oh, not Damon's. So I think that's to be determined, so there's just lots of brainstorming going on right now. I had even suggested that we all move over to that hotel, the Idaho Hotel over on
Oh yeah, they have a lot of room.
That I think is practically empty.
No, I lived there for a month, don't do that. You don't want to do that.
They're talking about some mobiles out in front of the PE building. So we'll kind of take down the neighborhood a little bit for a while. None of that's been decided yet. It all hinges on the legislature approving using that whole $3.9 million for asbestos removal, which is this whole building removal. So follow the legislature. The other thing that is really, really important, that not the legislature, the state board meeting. So the state board meets in Moscow in, I think it's 2 to 3 weeks. This will be one of the items that they'll be discussing. The other is that there will be a tuition increase of 5.9%. That tuition increase, and this is going to go to the reclassification, is on our agenda, is really important for a couple of reasons. One is that it's going to pay for some mounting bills, but the other is that there has been I don't know if you pay much attention to staff salaries, but our staff salaries on this campus are abysmal. And any staff person will tell you that that's right. Our faculty salaries are about 90% of peer institutions. Our staff salaries are about 70% of the peers below us salaries. So it's a pretty serious issue that we're going to be trying to address in the next 4 to 6 years. It's going to take a little while to get there, but the first thing that will happen is with this reclassification, anybody whose salary falls below the minimum of that classification, we're going to try and at least get into the box of that classification next year. So it's going to be the first step to trying to get staff salaries a little bit more in line with peer institutions. So it's an effort that will be helped by this 5.9% tuition increase. So that's another area to watch with the state board coming in, is the tuition increase and approval or not approval. Melinda?
How much do you and Christina in your Road Warrior role have to raise to rebuild?
Well,
if they approve
I have gulp, so this is a gulp. I have suggested that I think $5 million is reasonable. So any of you who have pocket change squirreled away and would like to contribute to the building fund that I will be raising are more than welcome to contribute. If you know of people who you think we should visit with who might have a vested interest in education, my idea, and you can tell me if you think this is just ludicrous, is to try and make it more than an education building, but to make it a space where people learn. And what I'd really like to focus on, I think it could be really exciting, would be kind of the pioneer history of Idaho, using archival photographs, and then really looking for pioneer families in mining, in timber, in agriculture, and in education. And really focus on some interactive work where people would come to the building because it's such a cool building to see the historical features that we have in the building. And that then allows us reasons to be talking with people who are from the mining industry and from the timber, timber pioneer families in the state. So that's my idea. I talked to the president about it yesterday. He didn't think it was crazy. So that was, okay, I'm going to start saying this in other audiences then if he at least doesn't think it's crazy. So I think we kind of get a vision for what it could be, and then I really want it to be a place where people on campus say, oh, while you're there, go over to the education building and check out the 3rd floor. The timber, you'll see, and so CNR would send people over, engineering would send people over for mining, and agriculture would send people over because we have such cool agriculture kinds of things. Oral histories, using technology and oral histories and pictures, I think it could be really cool. So that's kind of an idea, but yeah, Road Warrior time. Get my flats on and my red cape or something. Questions? Okay, gonna move on. Funding opportunities. The Albertsons grant, we are now moving forward. We've hired a couple of people who are really going to be exciting. We also have another hire that will be hopefully contributing to this, the special education hire that was mentioned, Alex. She's got a background in assistive technologies. I think we're really pulling together a team that can do some work with technology and education. There will be funding available for faculty. We'll start working on rubrics and small grant opportunities for faculty who are interested in researching specific technologies with specific populations. And so we will not have funding that can go to your salaries, but we will have funding that could fund the research. So it could fund the technology and the research costs in terms of testing and field testing with schools and classrooms. So start thinking about what you might be interested in doing. There would be, it does not have to just be with K-12 classrooms, although K-12 students and classrooms will be a feature of that. So as you're thinking about what you're doing, keep in mind that something will be coming out most likely this summer that would be for early fall dispersal to get the work going that we have promised Albertsons that we'll be working on. The classification study, I don't know if we've got some staff who are upstairs or not. but that study, the reclassification study, all staff had to go through a major survey process where they listed out everything that they did. We're going from 19 different position titles down to, I think, 12 is about where they will land. And people will be moved into what is deemed the appropriate title for them. And then there will be a salary grid, and then we'll start working to try and get people to the midpoint of that salary grid. So that will start rolling itself out. I think there will be a presentation to Faculty Senate during the next Faculty Senate meeting, is my understanding. And it will, where it will be a difficulty for us is they're going to require that any new hires be hired at the below the 25 percentile in that, so that we're not putting the money into new hires, but putting the money into getting everybody who is already here up to the right place. So that means if we're going outside of the university for a hire, that it will likely be somebody at the very entry level. And that's part of the strategy to use any funding that is coming in to raise everybody who already is here up to peer levels. Leadership and Counseling Department Chair search. So we have had a search going on. We brought two candidates to Boise, Moscow, Coeur d'Alene. There has been an offer that has gone out to one of the candidates, and as a part of that offer, there has now been a request for a spousal accommodation. There actually is a position open in her area, which is educational leadership, so there is a position open, which then allows us to get a search waiver. That does not mean that this is going to happen. It doesn't mean that it's a done deal. It means that we're allowing the process to work its way through to see if this would be a good dual career, dual couple hire. So there will be an interview taking place in Boise. Michael Croth is chairing that process, and Michael, a huge thank you to you for stepping up and doing work during spring break and when nobody was around and getting everything ready. So there will be a candidate for an educational leadership position in Boise, and she will be there for the interview on Wednesday. I fly to Boise on Tuesday, so we'll meet with her on Tuesday, and then she'll be on campus for the Boise interview on Wednesday, and we'll see what happens from there. But we're at the stage in negotiation that this would be the next step, and we'll see from there. So we'll just let that process play itself out. Questions, especially from Boise faculty or Coeur d'Alene faculty, leadership and counseling faculty around the process? John, question?
Just so I understand, so this is the original position was for a department chair, and then the person who has been made an offer for that is requesting spousal accommodation for a person to be in his department.
That is right. They're both in the same area. So the stipulation, so the understanding would be that the chair would never supervise this person, that would likely fall to the associate dean, would never schedule that person. There would be consultation between the associate dean and the chair, but everything that could lead to conflict, and obviously there would be pages of potential conflicts because they're in the same department. That's really been thought through and would be part of the negotiation process. So working carefully with Carmen Suarez, with the provost, and with making sure that any kind of potential conflicts that we try and think through them in advance, so that it's not something afterwards where we're going, oh, we should have thought about that. So it's tricky. It's tricky, but we think highly enough of the candidate to give this a shot and see if it would work. Let's see, and Kate. Twyla, can you tell me the time? My watch, my battery is 2:04, thank you. So this is a really interesting thing. I had a backup watch. This is such a bird walk. I'm sorry, everybody, but it's a really cool thing. So my battery stops in my watch, and I remember that I have a second watch. I haven't looked at it for 5 years. It's about 7:20 when I figure out that my watch has stopped. go in, find my watch that I haven't seen for 5 years, go, oh my God, it's still working, 7:25, put it on my wrist, go about my business. I'm late for my 8:30 meeting because I keep looking down and it's not time to leave yet, it's not 8 something, and I was gonna leave at 8:05. Well, it isn't working. It's still 7:25. There is one in, my husband figured this out for me, 43,000, 1 in 4 something. How many minutes in the day are there or something? And the chance of it being exactly on time, the minute I pulled it out of that drawer and it was there, is pretty incredible. But it's still 7:25. So, what was I talking about? NK.
You were avoiding instinctively go elsewhere.
Anywhere, I will go anywhere. So NK is almost here. Just a couple of words, and then we can ask Dan if he has any recommendations. Everybody has worked like crazy. We have got things in. Oh my gosh, is there evidence there? The issue now is that the reports can never fully explain who we are. So it is your opportunity to shine in interviews. Brag about your students, brag about your programs, listen to what they're asking for, and make sure that they get more than they ask for in responses. If there are areas that you think, you know, we need to really be working on that, we could do better here, I would say, you know, leave that for your program meetings and just don't even bring it up. This is a time for you to shine and show that you shine. And it's a time to really brag on your students and the work that you do. So the couple of things that I would ask that you remember: teacher preparation and educator preparation is bigger than the College of Ed. We're in this all together, so English education, agriculture education, music education are all a part of the us in educator preparation, and have that in mind as you talk about your work with music education, or in concert with agriculture education, or with math education. Make sure that people hear that Ann works closely with the math department, and our science, and David is a split position between both, and is a great communication link between everything that's happening, that we have a joint PhD that we're proposing between the two departments. Those kinds of things are really important. That Raymond, that you're working closely with engineers and working with LCSC and with community colleges, partnerships, outreach, all of that is really important, and we do it really well. So I think that's the point, is that we have a lot to celebrate. My guess is that there are some things that they will find that they're concerned about. For example, the building. You know, at least now we can tell them there's a plan. We're waiting for the legislature to act, and we'll be moving out of the building with new facilities within a couple of years. That's a really good thing. It's a really good thing that the budget questions that I had were answered, and that I can say that we are moving forward financially stable. So that's a really good thing. So any questions around? So there is a Sunday dinner. People are coming in. We have a total of probably 16, 17 people from the state, focusing on, they're from the Professional Standards Commission. They'll be looking at content areas, whether it be PE or chemistry or whatever the content is.
Oh, I thought you were asking for the names.
So they will be looking at content, and then there is a team of 6 coming in from the national team, and they will be looking at everything but content. So there are 2 separate reports, 2 processes. The NCAPE people will likely talk to the state people. They will go on focus group interviews together, so you might not know whether the person who's interviewing you is state or NCAPE, doesn't really matter. They will talk when they have questions. Have you seen anything about this? We're wondering about this. But their reports and their recommendations are separate. So there will be a dinner on Sunday night where that is primarily program leaders and administrators, and then the team will have a short presentation and tables showcasing some of what you would like to showcase. One of the things that I want to showcase is faculty quality, so we will have faculty publications and research, your posters and things over there as well. On Tuesday, the day is interviews and site visits. So there will be people who will be off campus doing site visits. There will be lots of interviews here on campus. If you notice anything out in your halls and outside of your offices that could be cleaned up, if you think there is a bulletin board that could be improved upon, I've asked IMTC to focus a book display on diversity. That's an area where I think they've got some concerns because we are so white in this area, and that's true. So anything you can do to add to kind of spruce up your area, showcase things that you think are important in your work would be a good thing. If you've got something that you would like down on one of the warped cork boards that we spent money on, please bring those down to the office and we'll post them and we'll push the board back and try and make it straighten up for at least 2 days. If we have rain while they're here, we'll just smile and mop and bring in buckets. So, Dan, any words from you?
It's almost here, and I promise when it's done, I won't come into your offices until fall.
I would really like to recognize the work that Dan has done. He has not had a 40-hour-a-week job for about 4 or 5 months now. He works weekends, he works nights. When the servers crashed, I think he was putting in 23 hours a day, really above and beyond, so thank you. No matter what happens, thank you. Okay, that takes us to committee reports.
Corey, I have a couple of,
yes.
Just a question on that
You
section.
bet, absolutely.
You know, there's a lot of information there, and I guess I have one question about kind of a plan for hiring future hires. You know, I think we hear about positions in each departments and positions being offered, and I don't have a clear picture of how those decisions are made. I don't know if we're putting our resources in the right area. I mean, I'm assuming you're all making those decisions, but I think that's, you know, it'd be nice for the college to know what are the priorities for the next 5 years so we can count on them.
Absolutely.
And the faculty be able to support that.
That's a great question. The hires that have been made this year, none of them have been anything other than replacements. So as Georgia is retiring, there is what are the priorities, and so I think that line is going to the assessment and kind of psychometrics, and that person, because Georgia has also been working at the college level, some of that would go to teaching quantitative methods. So that's kind of a position that benefits the college. Positions there are so they are replacement hires at this point. And that's all that has been done. There have been a couple of positions that have been on soft funds, on salary savings, and those aren't always being rehired because we are going to do a little bit of tightening here to try and see if we can't get in line. So there has been nothing that has been anything other than a replacement of a faculty. For new positions moving forward, if enrollment declines continue in some areas and increase in other areas, there are going to have to be reallocations. I'm going to have to say, okay, we've got to stop, you know, even though you've got somebody leaving in this area, retiring or something, enrollments are such that I'm going to have to reallocate and move it over to a program that is growing. So we're really close to that now. The other possibility is athletic training is very close to moving to their self-sustaining model, so there will be positions that will remain in movement sciences. I have no plans on taking those college level, but moving into movement sciences in other areas where you all decide that there are the highest needs. So that will be some program decisions. The positions that are kind of Jim's position, because he is in the associate dean position, is one that is out there that could go to something, but currently is just trying to cover costs for where we have adjunct needs. Jerry McMurtry's position was another position that I was really, really leery of letting go of, because if he decided to come back, we would have to find a home for him. So that is the position, and it's AOLL, and they are just stretched beyond for resources because of the numbers of graduate students and doctoral students they have. So we have a clinical position, we have a clinical hire there, And pretty soon I'll be comfortable with the point of being able to say, you know, that was too long ago, we couldn't hold on to that position. So moving into more permanent decisions there. I've been really hoping, I've been trying to hold off on permanent decisions for leadership and counseling so that the new chair could have some hiring opportunities. But there has been no allocation of any new resources to any department since I've been here.
You mentioned Jerry McMurtry's position. Is there anybody else on the, I mean, it comes to mind that Jean Christiansen is tenured here. Do we have to hold a position for her?
No, there is not a position that's held for her. I do want to say that there are 2 new positions. One is, so the Albertsons funding hired a clinical in technology integration. That is a soft money position. She knows she's coming in with 3 years, and hopefully we'll find continued funding because it's an area where there are dollars. And so that is a position that is not on a tenure line, and it would go away if the funding went away.
Thank you.
Yep. Other questions? Okay, let's move to committee reports. So GRCP, Michael.
Thank you, Dean. I really don't have any updates except that we've started these brown bag series. We've had 2 very successful ones, and so that's off to a good start. And hopefully we'll plan the last one. We're kind of in the midst, like everybody else is, and all the things going on right now. So trying to get things scheduled and accomplished is a challenge with all those kind of things. But those brown bags, I think, have been well received, and kind of continuing to try to develop the spirit of graduate research and the spirit of collegiality as we move forward. So that's all I really have to report. And
great, thank you.
Corey, I just wanted to make a couple of additions to the GRPC. First of all, Michael Croth has just done a phenomenal job as chair of GRPC this year. And I think Damon reported that there was an effort for 17 years to have the brown bags. My longevity does not approach that, okay? So I don't know if that's true, but they have been in the works for some time. But I just wanted to elaborate on what Michael said. As Corey has mentioned during this meeting, people are really stressed right now with the NCATE and all the searches going on. But the brown bags have been phenomenal, really engaging. And yet we also recognize the participation has really been minimal because of people being so busy. They are posted right now online. We need to refine the editing of them. Okay, a little chit chat going on, but still, nonetheless, really provocative. But they haven't had many hits yet, but I anticipate more hits once the searches are concluded and we get past NCATE. But the GRPC will be discussing in the future that maybe it would be better if they would be offered later in the day and maybe during a social hour or something of that nature. So please give feedback to your GRPC representative in ways that we can really foster that, because I mean, take a look at them. They are really interesting and informative on that. So I just wanted to emphasize that. The other thing, the doctoral guide, it's, what edition are we in now?
14.
Okay, so right now, the next revision is, as you know, the GRE scores have changed, and so we're updating that. And we will also be conducting focus groups in the next few weeks regarding the doctoral learning outcomes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. The technology committee, Brant is not here. Is there somebody, Jim?
Yes. And so Brant is probably around Butte, Montana right now, and he had planned to call in, but is not able to. So with regards to the technology committee, just wanted to mention that the ITS is on that committee, representatives, and they have been phenomenal. They were really helpful in both of the learning technology searches. I mean, extremely helpful. I feel like that we have a real synergistic relationship with ITS staff. And so they have really helped us make wise decisions, and certainly some of the issues that you raised are impacting the way that we're conceptualizing the high-tech learning laboratory. but we're really convinced that it's going to be so adaptable and flexible that we'll still have it, but there may be a couple of different iterations of that. And we are also currently making some purchases for IMTC.
Great, thank you. Paul and Dan, assessment.
Rock, scissors, paper to see who goes first.
Go ahead.
The assessment committee, as you know, had received approval for new language. We have met. We are starting to talk about all manner of things, including the annual assessment cycle, which several programs are in a soft reset this year, which means we were working through what data do you collect, how is that data collected. I know that Exercise Science and Health and I have been working pretty closely, so my thanks to you and all the efforts that we've got there. Other programs, I will be contacting you after NCATE. It's just kind of been a capacity issue right now. So the soft resets, if your program was notified of a soft reset via your department chair, please remember that you still have to collect data, so you can revisit that, and that link I can send out to everyone again if you don't already have it bookmarked. In that spirit, we will meet one more time this year as assessment committee after NCATE to receive that data, start to summarize it, and discuss next steps, which for next year will include a little bit more centralization of data. How do we collect those things? How are those reports generated out of my office and sent to faculty for use, so that we know what we're collecting, where we're collecting it, and how you can all use it as a faculty.
Thank you. Alan, Faculty Senate.
We have a question up here in Coeur d'Alene.
Yes, go ahead.
There's a little bit of discussion running around here. Is the Board of Examiners coming up to Coeur d'Alene next week?
No.
So this is an NCATE question. They will not be coming to Coeur d'Alene. We will be doing video or probably just phone calls to students and to teachers, local teachers and graduates, and we will assume that faculty will be down here.
Have accommodations been made for faculty who need to have hotel space and so forth?
There is a block of rooms, they just need to.
There is a block of rooms, Twyla says, and work with your chair to make sure that your accommodations are in place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul says thank you too. Ellen.
Yeah, just a couple of things about Faculty Senate. First, this is really a fascinating committee to serve on, so I just start out with that comment. Okay, and we do have the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of information that's shared. There's a lot of things shared there, and one of those things recently has been a presentation by Bob Smith and Keith Ickes about concerning the Vision 2020 and the enrollment growth goals of the University of Idaho. And I just a couple of observations. Listening to those guys, there's no doubt in people's minds that we are going to those enrollment numbers and we're going to get there. The question becomes, is 2020 the year that we're going to get there or not? And maybe and maybe not, and there's a lot of discussion about that. And a lot of discussion about the implications of what that means to the University of Idaho, what it means to our culture, what it means to the number of faculty involved. If we need issues such as if we need 100 new faculty to support that many students, well, that means we need like 300 new staff members. And so they just shared a lot of
300 staff?
They were talking 200 to 300 staff to support 100 faculty.
Do we get some of those?
So
that sounds backwards, but
it's all right.
No, it takes more staff per faculty.
Oh, but so that would include registration.
Oh yeah, the whole thing, the whole university-wide from a university perspective. So to me, this was a really fascinating thing, and I was glad to see some serious consideration put to the culture of this university, and those guys really thinking about when we change our size, how does that change the university, and wanting to understand those issues before we move forward. So. No real, conclusions to share, but that conversation is ongoing, and they're serious about our enrollment growth. There's no doubt about it. But it does seem there's some reality. These guys recognize that we may or may not hit those numbers by that date too. There seemed to be that recognition in the conversation. So don't mean to be too long with that. But the other real concrete thing that affects all of us is a change in regulations related to finals. Currently, there is a regulation on the book that requires you to meet with your class during finals week, whether you have a finals or not. So that has been changed. I'm not sure when this goes into effect, so I'm not sure if that goes into effect now or next year, but the rule has been changed, and instructors will no longer be required to meet with their class during finals week. And that had to do with the fact that there's online courses where that doesn't happen anyways. There are lots of project-based courses where final exams aren't even given in the first place. And so the discussion ended up that that rule will be changed, and you won't be required to meet with your students during finals week. And so, and I'll just conclude with the fact that it's been really pressed to us the importance of getting faculty to be involved in university leadership and to attend the all-faculty meeting that's coming up. And apparently we didn't have a quorum at one of the last all-faculty meetings, and that's really, that's not a good thing. So, you know, we want to carve out that hour or two to go attend that meeting. So that concludes my report. Sorry for being long-winded on that.
Just one question about that rule. Can you find out whether that takes place for this coming semester?
I absolutely can. I mean, it has been voted on. Faculty
Yeah, I'm
Senate
wondering if
voted.
that becomes, by the next faculty meeting, whether it becomes rule or not.
Chantal?
Do we know when the next all-faculty meeting is, Alan?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have that date off the top of my head, but that is it's soon. It's in a few weeks.
Yep.
The other thing I would remind people is to keep in mind Idaho State University's fate of not even having faculty senate and faculty governance. We don't want to have that happen, and I don't think it would happen here. I just can't imagine that happening here, but I think maintaining a strong faculty governance, faculty presence, faculty attendance is really important with faculty governance. So I would encourage people to attend whenever you can. I also understand that, Alan, you have been serving as a replacement.
That is correct.
For faculty senate, and your term ends at the end of this semester.
That is correct.
And so we need to run an election for the faculty senate spot, because Alan's position was just for the partial year, taking the place of Greg Halloran, who had been serving on faculty senate. So I don't know if we want to do that today. We had said we weren't going to be voting today. Alan?
Can he serve again, and can we ask him if he wants to?
I believe you could, and I don't see any harm in asking.
The truth of the matter is this committee, I don't know why, but it just seems it could be conflicting with everything in my life outside of the committee. So if I'm called upon to serve again, I will. So I'll just leave it at that, but I'm not asking to be nominated.
I think, just a point of order, we need to check on whether or not that can be done, what the election process is, yeah.
So there is an election process for faculty senate, so we will get out the rules and regulations and make sure that we follow that. And thank you, Alan.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's been really great, actually. Other than I've had this continuing conflict with their meetings, I did want to mention one thing. What was it? Faculty Senate does want to have a meeting sometime towards the end of April with the newly elected Faculty Senate.
So we need to do this.
Yes, so we've got, I think, a couple of weeks to get some nominations and some votes done.
So we'll get the process started and then do this online. Great, thank you. John and UCC, anything to report?
I don't have much, except that I'm learning about this committee, and Charles Tibbles has done a good job of improving communication and also technology, so I can phone in on the meetings. That was kind of a struggle when I first started, is to get everything coordinated, but that's been taken care of, and so far nothing earth-shattering has been voted upon except cleaning up things in the course catalog. So that's where we're at there.
Great, thank you.
Corey,
Gregor,
the next faculty
30th at 3 o'clock.
April 30th, 3 o'clock for
So-
the next faculty, university faculty meeting. So Chantal, excuse me, but this is just the question you had asked. April 30th for the next university faculty meeting.
Thank you.
April 30th at 3
3 o'clock Mountain Time?
3 o'clock.
I'm gonna guess that it's Pacific time.
And it's in the
Pacific.
sun.
I think
That's
the university revolves around Moscow for Moscow.
So 3 o'clock
I think
Pacific.
so, apologies, but, so 3 o'clock Pacific time. Thank you, Twyla. Graduate Council, Grace.
Yeah, so, you know, we've been working on the graduate faculty committee membership, which has been quite an onerous task. And so I've been on a sub-task committee with 2 other people, and so there've been numerous changes, numerous discussions. We finally got a vote from the council to approve our changes. And so now it's gone to legal counsel because there's some legal issues that are related to that. So we will hear back from legal counsel next week. Hopefully they won't make too many changes. And then it'll move forward after that. So that'll be great if we can get that resolved by the end of the semester.
Great. Safety, and I think that's Jeff.
Yes, so the College Unit Health and Safety Committee has met frequently, once a month, and our annual, so the good news is, the annual assessment went from being the university, the college and its units, went from being one of the lowest scoring units in the university to one of the highest this year. So we're really happy with everybody's efforts there. Safety claims at the university are way down compared to previous years. Our slips, trips, and falls are way down, and I think that is part of our efforts.
They
And
clearly don't come during rainstorms.
Yeah.
And seriously, I mean, it is a health hazard because there are puddles of water when it rains now, and you can't see them. So I'm out there, we're throwing towels down to make sure that people see that there are puddles on the floors. I'm waiting for somebody to crash and have a concussion in the rain here because you can't see puddles on the floors in this building.
I would think that those things, I know they're getting to you, but we would like to also document those on our College Unit Health and Safety Committee stuff. And
So Patricia keeps track of all those, so I will ask her to forward you whenever we have a building issue that
because I sit on the as a college rep to the University Safety Committee. Yep, yep.
So the more you talk about the problems with the education building, the more other people will also understand why we're getting a new building, because people will kind of look at this and go, why them? Their building's 60 years newer than our building. So.
Definitely if there's water on the floor, then we need to put some cones up or
Yeah,
markers
there are
around.
cones, there are buckets, there are,
Other than
even
that,
on Vandal Friday.
the committee will be sending out an all college email about some of our progress and some of the other things that we have on our agenda that we want to make sure we make improvement in those areas as well.
Great,
So
thank you. Risk, threat, and assessment is a new committee. Jim?
Yes. So I was selected to serve on the Risk
And threat assessment.
and Threat Assessment Committee, and this is a response to the current national context, of course. So it's a new committee. It's actually formed 6 months or so ago, maybe a little longer, but now they are having faculty representation. And so I think that it's still really finding its role and how best to operationalize its mission. But I wanted you to be aware of the committee, and if you have a concern that you believe constitutes a risk or a threat, I wish that you would contact me, and we'll have a conversation about the best way to proceed with that.
Great. And last is, that I have, is Research Council. Dave?
Number of things have kind of come around. One of the questions is around sequester. The thought from VP of Research Office is that it's here to stay, and there's not much political momentum to have any of those things turned over, whether it be in terms of state political leaders or across the country. So some people, it may mean that their existing grants may be reduced for certain federal agencies, or the number of grants offered by federal agencies is probably going to go down. But there's no sense that it's going to be reversed. a lot of conversations around reconfiguring of the IRB since the director of the IRB resigned. So in the short term, a lot of the administrative tasks are going to be picked up by OSP. And the long-term plan is to have OSP take over supervisory responsibilities of the IRB, and we don't know what the specifics of those things are right now. And some of the folks on the College of Ed are on that committee and probably know more about it than I do. Announcement about a successful seed grant. I think they funded 12 out of 45 or 46, so it's great that Margaret represented the college in there. And I don't know how we spent so many hours on those 3 short things, but that's my report.
Okay, so Raymond, do we all the diversity?
Yeah, do you wish to hear about that?
Yes, I do, and I will add it to our list for future meetings. So yes, okay. Raymond and the Diversity Council.
The Diversity Council met with the president last semester, and the minutes from that meeting is available on the website. Also, there is a summary analysis that is presently in progress, which speaks to campus culture and climate, and that is also available on the website. And it's very informative, and so we can check it to see what the type of culture and atmosphere is like on campus here in terms of diversity. We also recently had a reception where the dean from the College of Law presented there, and he talked about the progress that they're making in terms of hiring more diverse faculty, and they're making remarkable progress. In fact, presently, I think they have a 50% male and female faculty, and they're having more females applying to their law program, and so it is becoming very diverse, and it's one that maybe we can examine and see what they're using and how we can imitate them to kind of increase the diversity in our college. For the steering committee culture and climate meeting, recommendations were made for a civility statement to appear in each syllabus. This is, of course, will have to be approved by the academic council. One of the ISEM requirements is the exploration of diversity. And so this can be an avenue for us to address diversity and culture matter as a part of the ISEM program. Not much is known about how the outcomes of the different steering committees are impacting the various college spaces on campus. That gave me the opportunity to present to them our CARE framework, and they're very impressed with how we highlight diversity in our CARE framework. And so they'll be looking closer at that and see what other colleges are doing. The recommendation was made that each department needs to have a diversity representative. Staff surveys will be sent out shortly to both part-time and full-time staff, and there's a section on it that will be dealing with bullying. And a term came up in our meeting, which I wasn't acquainted with that term before. It spoke about microaggression. And there's talk about how, well, microaggression usually involves demeaning implications and other subtle insults against minorities, and it may be penetrated against those due to their gender, sexual orientation, and ability, and so forth. And there's recommendation to have a focus group to see how we can sensitize the campus community more about this type of aggression, microaggression.
Yeah, it's nice to have that term to think about that. I haven't heard that term before. So thank you, Raymond, for
Raymond,
that.
I would also be curious to know whether or not we can talk about it another time, that it's worth discussing aversive aspects of racism and sexism and all the isms where they're not quite so blatant. And I think the microaggression is kind of tapping into that, but I think it's really important.
We'll be having a meeting shortly, so if you have any ideas that you'd like me to share with them, I'll welcome it.
Thanks, Raymond.
Okay. Other committee reports.
I'm on the Outreach and Engagement Council, and the focus of this council right now is really trying to get their hands around service learning. And so they've hired, not hired, but the person that does strategic initiatives, what's his name, Ron, I have to think about that. But he's really taking this on as a business model. It's very interesting to think about what are strategic opportunities with service learning. So they'll be interviewing and conducting focus groups. So if you're somebody that's really involved with service learning and you'd like to be able to speak to that, please let me know, because no names have been even compiled yet, but we're working on the assessment sort of tools. And Jim Elkins from Service Learning has resigned and is going, he has a great position up in the Coeur d'Alene Center with Water, but not sure what will happen with his position.
And I don't know if this is related to service learning or not, but because of Helen's work and her students' work, we have in the College of Education the first lactation nursing mothers room in the education building, and I think we should be really proud of that as well. So we've got a space here. If you know of future mothers who are needing a space, get in touch with Helen. Who holds the key?
Patricia?
So people can just check out the key. It's a private room. It remains locked while you're in it. You return the key, and it's set up for nursing mothers, and hopefully it's a good private. It's not fancy, but a good space, and it's the only one on campus that I'm aware of.
Third floor.
There are others that are coming on board.
So I want to give the dean some kudos. So we're sitting on a plane together, and I told her about this, and she said, "I'm on board. I want to be." And so you're first because you were on board, and now SRC went, we want to do this too. So now the SRC and the Women's Center have started, but there'll be a ribbon cutting. I think that's April 11th. I have to check back. So we'll have our students who worked really hard on this project and the dean cut the ribbon and celebrate that we have the very first accommodation. And this is a legal precedent. It has to happen. The Affordable Care Act said institutions with over 50 employees had to have a place to express milk that wasn't a bathroom, that the door could be locked. And if anybody's been a mom needing to find a place to do that, you'll really appreciate this accommodation.
Yeah.
That's where I did it.
Well, thank you and your students for working so hard on this. One last item, and that is that Movement Sciences put forth a curriculum change. It did not meet the deadline, but I wanted to let everybody know that there's a curriculum change, and it is to move the GPA for upper division courses in exercise science and health to a 2.3 for upper division courses. So the process will be, unless there is a call for suspension of rules, this needs to first go to the College Coordinating Council, and they would then make a recommendation for it to go to the full college. So it has been voted on at the department level. And so it needs to go to the CCC, then it will come back to this group. We will likely do that online unless there's a call for suspension of rules, and we've got time. This will not make catalog next year no matter what. So if we can just try and get this through, it can be implemented. It has to be on our websites and talking about it, and then would be in catalog for the next iteration of catalog. On that note, are there any questions? Let's go to Coeur d'Alene and Boise. Questions there?
And Brian is in Idaho Falls.
And Brian, welcome from Idaho Falls, Rexburg area. And any questions? Anybody?
No questions from here in Boise.
Okay, thank you. So I will be in Boise. For those of you in Boise, I'll be there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I will be in meetings all of those days, so we'll likely not be very much on campus, but I will try and drop in, and we'll be meeting with the Ed Leadership candidate on Tuesday night. We'll have visitors starting to come in Saturday, so Saturday, Sunday, there may be some people in the buildings those days. They'll definitely be over at the hotel working. Sunday night dinner for those of you who have been asked to attend the dinner, and set up small stations of stuff for people to look at. Thank you for your participation and all of the work that's gone into this visit, and will be nice to have on the other side of us, but it doesn't mean that we don't keep pushing forward with the work. And then we'll get Faculty Senate get voting for Faculty Senate, and then we will also work through the process with this curriculum change for Movement Sciences. I think that's it, and I think we're ready to then adjourn the meeting. So thanks, everyone. Oh, I know, there is one last thing. We have on, what's the date for the, kind of the end of the year goodbye transitions?
It's in process because the CNI department is traveling during
Oh,
the day,
so
I
to be
will get it out.
determined. Announcements to come, so we don't have anything there. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.